So I'm Alex Spinelli. I am the Chief Technology Officer for LivePerson. So I've been with LivePerson for about a year, just a little over a year, and I used to be at Amazon, so I spent about 5 years at Amazon where I led search, and then I also led the Alexa platform for the last number of years. So we built the core AI engines, speaker recognition, and all the APIs that developers use to build Alexa experiences. And then I transitioned to LivePerson, like I said, about a year ago, and the big change there was I wanted to go to a company that was actually helping brands and businesses globally actually take the leap into building rich conversational natural experiences. So we support some of the biggest brands in the world, from Citibank, Goldman Sachs, Get here locally, Vodafone in Europe, and what we do is actually help companies completely rethink how they actually work in the digital world. And this is really important, and I think one of the things I really wanted to hit on this talk is that what we're doing here, call it Chatbot, I feel like that almost minimizes it, might be kind of an evolution to the name. What we're talking about here is a pretty big change, and we believe at LivePerson that websites and apps need to die. They need to go away. They don't work. They haven't helped companies. So, and we can talk about how companies are failing and actually disappearing. Only 60 of the original Fortune 500 firms is still alive today, which is pretty amazing. In the last 20 years or so, if you look at the tenure of companies on the S&P 500, it actually used to be around 40 years in the 60s. Now it's about 14 years and even declining. So companies are actually, their success, the biggest companies in the world are disappearing. In the US, this is a pretty shocking number to many, only 14% of all retail sales is online. So most people think it's much, much bigger than that. In Europe, it's actually under 11%. In Australia, it's 5%. It's super, like when you really think about all the work we're doing online, e-commerce only represents a fraction of retail sales. And in the US, that 14%, half is Amazon. And then you have eBay and a few others. So that means most of us, most enterprises, most brands are actually fighting for the scraps. They're actually fighting for the long tail of views. So big companies that we know are completely gone. Sears is gone, Blockbuster, Borders, these companies are all closing up. And we all carry around these phones and we have all these apps for every business in the world, but it's a circus. I know on my phone, if I looked at it now, I'd have about 95 apps that need updating. So what companies have done, I have a really nice slide of this digital fortress, but what companies have done is they've actually created digital fortresses, moats around themselves in the way of their customers, in the way of their consumers. They put an app, they put a website, don't call us, they hide the phone number, they have IVRs, which are really difficult to use, you wait on hold still. We still wait on hold for hours sometimes. So the other thing too that's really interesting is the differentiation has pretty much vanished with globalization. So now that you can be a business here and know what everyone's doing far away in other parts of the world, and you have access to technology instantly, businesses are becoming less and less differentiated. I have these really cool slides that will show you different businesses, auto companies, banks, credit card companies, insurance companies, and I flip through them, and you'll actually see the websites look the same. They're actually becoming less and less differentiated. So we actually don't know what the difference between a business has sort of started to fade. Ah, there we go. So they look the same. One's Kia, right? Wells Fargo, Chase. I have 6 banks. I actually work with 6 different banks. It's all the same fees, same services, for a variety of reasons, and historically, it doesn't matter to me. The differentiation is gone. Even luxury brands look less and less different. And what's happening is consumer behavior has radically changed. So there's 100 billion messages sent every day across these platforms, almost 13 million texts every minute. This I think is really interesting. 470 million new people will come into messaging over the next 2 to 3 years. That's the size of the entire US plus the UK and France coming into a new place. It's rude to call somebody. right? I call my daughter and she's like, what? Why'd you call me? Text me. This is really fascinating. In a country that has none of the legacy, none of the baggage, none of the ways of thinking that we think often in the US and in the West, 90% of 1 billion WeChat users have actually started making purchases and payments in messaging. So consumer behavior is completely different. We want access immediately. We want personalized access. We want access where we are at any time. I thought this was kind of an interesting stat. 73% of consumers says if you can't answer something within 10 minutes, they're gone. They're on to the next one. And that speaks to that differentiation problem, because it doesn't matter. I can go from one to the other, and it doesn't matter. They're all going to be a digital fortress. If I wait on hold for one company, I'll wait on hold for the other. Let me find the one that will talk to me fastest, right? And we want highly personalized services. 80% of people say they will do business with you if they believe their experience will be personalized. So AI and automation are the only way to scale this. So actually, when we talk about chatbots, I think we need to actually blow that up and think even bigger. And here's why we need to think even bigger. This is our consumer base. They're highly differentiated. They're very diverse. They're all around the world. And AI is becoming part of their lives. So we think there'll be 500 million voice assistants in just a few years. 70 million homes will have some type of an AI assistant in the US. This is actually kind of better than cable network penetration. And just in 15 years, there'll be as many bots as there are people. So the adoption of this technology is completely different. It took 30 plus years for there to be the same number of mobile phones as people. But why? So this is, again, more than a trend. It's not just mobile, the next thing to just build into your ecosystem. So we can go back to the Industrial Revolution. So this is when humans started to put together machinery. We started to create assembly lines. We had the first Industrial Revolution. There's something called the second, which is when we started to create processes and increase output and consistency and quality. We're now arguably at the tail end of the digital revolution. So this is when we took machines and we went from analog machines to digital machines. Now we're entering something called the fourth industrial revolution. So I'm not making this up. You can go read about this in the World Economic Forum. This is when we start to blend together the virtual world and the real world. So we start to think about autonomous driving. We start to think about AI. We start to think about really and truly natural experiences. And I think this is what something like the Chatbot Summit, this is starting to predict and portend. We're on the precipice of this. It's not just another feature. So this, to me, hammered it home. So I was in an event similar to this in Germany about 6 months ago, and it was actually after the event. I was at dinner, and I was sitting next to a gentleman, and I asked him what he did, and he said he runs AI for one of the biggest auto manufacturers in the world. And I said, oh, what do you do? He said, well, I report to the COO directly. I have almost an unlimited budget. I said, wow, I could take that job. That'd be pretty fun. So, but what are you working on? He said, well, we don't think we're going to make cars in 20 years. We don't even think we're making the cars. To them, because cars, when you have autonomous driving, they actually start to look the same. All of the sort of concepts around the driver experience, which this car company is particularly proud of, go away. Acceleration, steering, all that when you have autonomous driving, cars need to actually sync up their acceleration and speeds. They'll feather through each other. There won't be lights, traffic lights. You actually won't be able to drive. I know it sounds crazy. It's not that far away. You'll actually go to a place somewhere to have fun, to drive. But most cities will not have driving. So that's the scale of change we're talking about with AI and automation at scale. That it's going to be that for our generation, some of the biggest visual changes in our lives. Because stuff's pretty stagnant for a little while. We've kind of miniaturized. We have these supercomputers in our pockets, but it's really been a huge change in the consumer technology. Now, with the fourth industrial revolution, that technology is starting to make its way back into the supply side. And we're going to have very large-scale changes in the enterprise. So we can get back to Earth for a second. Here come the bots, right? Business Messaging is now ready for business. We have Apple Business Chat, Google's launching RBM, WhatsApp launched WhatsApp for Business, Facebook obviously we know is has been working with businesses for a while. But here's the thing, they're useful, but it's a great sign outside, like your chatbot sucks, I saw some other company doing. They often are not very good. And why is it important? They need to be really good. It's not just slapping something together and putting up a bot. We as humans have a negativity bias. One bad experience actually flavors our view of things. So this is a good example. So that bug, this beautiful bowl of strawberries, that bug ruins the strawberries, right? You're not eating strawberries now. Even to make the bug a little bit smaller, you're not going to even take this one, right? You're not, oh, that's not touching the bug, I'm not, right? You probably won't eat strawberries for a week, maybe longer. So we have this negativity, it's actually a survival instinct. And we can all get stuck. This is like the equivalent of like being on hold forever, the blue screen of death. It's not about cost savings. I know a lot of folks look at how can I drive cost out of the business by putting up a bot. Well, if you do that, you're going to just be doing IVR 2.0. That's not the game. And I think this is really important, and one of the things that I think LivePerson has a very unique view on, it's not about replacing humans with AI. Certainly, AI will start to do work that humans do, for sure, and jobs will change. But I think we have to stop thinking about, I can replace all these people with an AI and start thinking, how do I use AI to actually transform my business and actually help and drive and enable people and humans? This is Ex Machina. It's an awesome movie. You should check it out. This is the goal, though. It's not about replacing humans with AI. It's not about cost savings. It's not about creating just simple bots. What we want to do is actually create natural experiences. It's interesting. I talk to people, you really think there's not going to be a website? You really think there's not going to be an app? I said, 20, 30 years ago, there's some pretty amazing businesses without a website or an app. Big, powerful, effective global businesses. So those businesses, what did they do? They talked to their consumers. They had conversations. And this has to be the goal. I think we kind of wandered down an interesting path. We got really excited about the internet and the web and its ability to collapse distance, its ability to put the store in someone's home, and we got obsessed with surfaces. Even anyone working in the digital space, surface. What surface will this run on? What surface is it optimized for? Swiping, tapping. None of that is actually natural. They're all been proxies. And even the way we've managed our business is actually looking at clickstream and page views. It's not the right way to do it. Intent, understanding the consumer is the way to do it, having conversations and dialogues. So we call this, we don't call it chatbots, we actually at LivePerson call it conversational commerce. And it's about being everywhere the consumer is. It's about being anywhere they want to actually start a dialogue, from voice to text to messaging to powerful visual experiences. It's not about just a text conversation. They should be multimodal. And what we've built is a platform that goes end to end, starting at any of the endpoints, any conversational experience, all the way through to deep integrations into the enterprise. Because if a bot just talks to you and then just routes you to something, it's actually just another facade. We need to be able to think about how these things actually do stuff and really help us achieve the goal that you need, that when you call somebody or when you're messaging them, what do you need to do? What's your problem? How do you understand that consumer? And we have a series of tools, from the ability to build bots for sure and build conversations, build deep integrations. We actually have something we call the Tango that allows bots and AI to actually work with sales agents and actually work directly with the employees in your company so that you can actually have full-fledged conversations. And then we give you a whole suite of analytics. So the goal is think about not just chatbots, think about how we actually move the business into the fourth industrial age and actually have you use AI to enable humans and transform what you're doing. Thank you.